Back in 2019, I was a perfectly fulfilled sophomore student, living the university life fully. Going out, making new friends, doing sports, and I even somehow ended up falling in love. I was at what felt like the greatest point of my life, and I thought that it was just the beginning. But everything got shut down very quickly.
The first death from coronavirus here in the United States.
Growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S.
2 des 3 patients français atteints de coronavirus.
10 millones de contagios se han confirmado y lo que es peor, casi 98.000 fallecidos.
When the pandemic news started to rise all around us, I was aware that my life was about to change. I was ready to live a different life, with less freedom for sure, but I was ready to make the most out of it. The first quarantine went by very quickly, and I didn't feel that much of a change. I was just happy to go back to university and to go back to what we call the normal life. But none of this happened, things had changed. And it is only 2 years later that I am able to put words on what happened and how I managed to get out of it. After the first quarantine, I honestly didn't have the same motivation, nor for university or anything else in my life. Everything started to become very costful. Getting out of bed in the morning was giving me a hard time every day, cooking for myself became insanely hard, and the same thing goes on for university, sports, and social life. The problem is that when things like this happen, our brain obviously sorts among all of the things in our life and get rid of all the ones considered as costful, to only keep the easy ones, and group all of these easy things to create what we call our comfort zone. I unconsciously started to create a very narrow comfort zone, and my comfort zone was not to get out of bed every morning, get some exercise in for the day, but it was to scroll on social media, binge watch YouTube videos, and spend hours and hours gaming while eating junk food. All of these activities integrated and stuck to my life very easily, because they do not require any mental nor physical effort to get done. And they also are endless sources of dopamine release. Even though I was drowning into this negative routine, I still had dreams, and I was feeling somehow ready to fight for them. So I would still try from time to time to grab my camera, shoot a somehow great video for YouTube before sharing it. But the whole process felt heavy, not enjoyable, and for sure extremely costful. There was so much friction in my workflow that I couldn't be consistent, which obviously didn't bring me the expected results, which therefore made me lose motivation and hope, and naturally ended up in a precious love for my comfort zone of gaming, scrolling, and drowning. The worst part of all of this is that through their social media, people show how successful, happy, and fulfilled they are, which started to develop a strong inferiority complex that I developed by constantly comparing myself. I had no more positive perception of my work and skills, even though people around me kept on telling me that I was doing a great job, that being a vet student was an amazing thing, that I was making great videos. Well, at that time, none of this mattered. I was simply stuck into my mindset where whatever I will be doing, I wouldn't get any attention because I would be less good than others. Month and month were flying by and nothing was changing. Things were just keeping the way they were while my comfort zone was getting smaller and impermeable for any step out. But a couple of months ago, I finally decided to step back, and I tried something that I was neglecting for a while, going to therapy. After a few phone calls and emails which never got returned, I realized that I would have to face things by myself and to take action. I immediately started to change my mindset. As the therapist wasn't returning any of my emails, I saw this as an opportunity to improve myself on my own. While if it would have happened a year ago, I would have probably given up and kept the direction my life was going towards. Now, before sharing my own story and how I got out of this psychological problem, I would like to mention though that it worked for me probably because this rut or depression wasn't as severe as it could have been. So I hope you will still take something from this video, but if not, don't be ashamed to go to therapy. Everyone is different and differently affected by techniques, and a little help never hurt anyone. Now, I hopefully managed to highlight the main problems of my life, and one of them was that constant comparison to others, seeing their social media profiles or their work, for example. Even though I knew deep inside me that social media aren't real life, and that these people probably aren't as happy nor successful as they're trying to convince us they are, I couldn't help but seeing my life in a negative way and underestimating my skills. For the beginning of 2022, I decided to start the year off strongly. I deleted all of my social medias for 30 days. Today's day 1. Day 2. of the social media detox. I was honestly shocked when I realized the time that I was spending every day scrolling on Instagram, TikTok, and binge watching YouTube videos. Even though the first couple of days were hard for me, I very quickly started to realize the consequences of my action. Less comparison for sure, and an insane increase of my focus when it came to getting things done. It also turned out that it freed a ridiculous amount of time during my days, but I did not make such a great use of that bonus time. And this is what the second change is all about: cutting the sources of addiction. Video games at that time was still a big part of my day. I was spending literally hours every day playing Fortnite, and that free time that I managed to make while getting rid of social media was an extra time that I could spend on playing video games. When I started to realize that I was addicted, I unplugged my Xbox, threw it in a box and in a drawer. It was a very simple action, but it was way deeper than this. I was finally stepping out of that comfort zone that I created over the course of the past years. I knew that I was starting something serious, and I knew that all of the free time I would have would be dedicated to shooting, scripting, and editing YouTube videos and training my filmmaking and storytelling skills. I knew this was going to be a lot of work, sometimes even hard work, but I was simply ready for it. If there is one thing that I realized lately, it is that getting out of my comfort zone is what really makes me happy, is what really motivates me to get out of bed every single day. Another thing that I realized lately, and that helped me a lot to get rid of social media and to quit video games, is that motivation is a real myth, and motivation never comes. Tomorrow transforms itself into the day after, and then into the next week, to finally never arrive. So regardless of the fact that making videos was a real passion of mine, the work that I had to put in and the friction that it represented was a real obstacle in my life. And motivation wasn't the key at all to overcome this obstacle. The key was the third change of my journey to overcome this rut in my life. It is when I discovered the principles of Stoicism. Among all of the amazing principles of Stoicism, I learned from two of them to get me out of this state of depression. The first one is that the obstacle is the way. And to quote Marcus Aurelius, the impediment to action advances action, what stands in the way becomes the way. Now this is a very philosophical quote from the book The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday that I've read, and it speaks by itself. It taught me in my very personal case that this obstacle, this work that I had to get done to be happier and more proud while making YouTube videos and scripting and editing them, was simply the way to go. And even though it may sound very cringe to speak like this, I realized how powerful and accurate this quote was when I caught myself being the happiest version I could have been when I was stepping out of my comfort zone and getting this work done. Another principle from Stoicism that helped me manage my emotions is called amor fati, or the love of fate. I used to get very demotivated when I would see a YouTube video with bad statistics, a video for which I would have spent hours scripting, shooting, and editing, and it is because of these type of events that I would stop myself every time from pursuing my dream. My video didn't do good. Well, okay, I'll try to find what happened and try to change it in order to get that 1% better for the next one. Or my exam didn't go well, but it's fine. Next time I'll start studying earlier or with a different technique. I learned that the external factors were absolutely out of reach, but the perception of events and actions were fully in my control. Another change that helped me getting out of this rut is that I understood that success isn't built overnight. And for almost everything that I start in my life, I choose to go for long term. When I started going to the gym, I was obviously not going to lift the heaviest on the third day of training. When I started investing small amounts of money every month, I understood that I wasn't going to become a millionaire the next day. When I started making YouTube videos again, I quickly understood that it was not one video that was going to get all the work done. All these three things helped me learn about the power of the compound effect. It was not about doing something once and expecting results. It was about making something once, repeating it the next day, then the next week, and repeating this action consistently in time. A perfect example for this is that as a student, if someone would have taught me to invest 500 euros in the stock market, for example, I would have immediately thought that this was out of reach. If I look at this over time, these 500 euros are just a result of the compounding 40 euros that I would invest every month. Same for habits. If I was told to improve myself by 37%, I wouldn't think that it is doable. But by improving myself by 1% every single day, this 37% growth suddenly became more than achievable. Mental health is a very serious thing that you should never neglect. We always think that it only happens to others, but never to us. Because we are stronger than anyone, the truth is that it can affect everyone, including yourself. And it comes in very quietly, but the consequences over time can be destructive. I hope this video will somehow help you to be happier or to get out of a rut if you're stuck into one. I'll leave my email in the comments, and if you ever need to talk to someone about some possible problems that you are facing in your life, feel free to write me. I'll be very happy to have a chat. And one more thing, whatever you are doing a good job. Don't quit.